Hey guys, Thomas the Silly Jr. here, aka Mustached Tom, here to review Pacific Rim Uprising. So, since I didn't initially review Pacific Rim, the original version, the first movie, I thought it was a pretty uh, okay action movie. Um, it had big giant robots fighting kaiju monsters. It was more designed to be just a big action fight versus robots versus kaijus. So when I initially started hearing about the promise of a sequel, I was actually going, okay. It wasn't the worst movie I've ever seen. Again, being an action-oriented film, I mean the characters were okay. Um, there's some like the length of the movie was a little bit long to get to the good parts, but other than that, it was again just okay in that regard. So I kind of had an assumption, and then I started seeing trailers or other reviewers start to compare it to Transformers more or less, and that's where I got a little bit more concerned. Is that we have Transformers movies, which by comparison are a lot harder to see the action sequences, and really that is one of the bigger aspects of these movies, right? It's a big action flick. You don't really tend to, you know, focus too much on other elements other than, oh, it's a big giant battle. So that's what I went into this movie kind of thinking, and then my ideals sort of started shifting after hearing that. So let's get into what actually happens. So we get this character who's like the son of one of the main characters in the first movie. His name is Jake, and I don't remember hearing anything about this character from the first movie. But he's like this guy. He's like, yeah, I'm not like my father. I do my own thing. I do go to parties, blah blah blah. And when I'm not doing that, I go around stealing Jaeger parts, which are what the robots are called. Um, and he's with these other guys who are also tracking down this part, but they almost betray him, and then like he escapes, and that is when he runs into this girl, Amara, who ends up being this sort of like, oh, I have this thing where I want to build a Jaeger, but the one I have is so small. Outside of that, her character doesn't really, I mean, later, at some point, her thing becomes like, oh, I'm a mechanic, because I built that Jaeger. So that's like her only other attribute besides that one training session that they had together. Um, that's the thing about the first Pacific Rim, is that even when the characters weren't that developed, like the training sessions between the main character and the girl, they were pretty, like that was like the focus was like building up to them going into the machine, and they only had like that one session of Amada, doing her thing. Oh, Amara, sorry. And we even learn less about the other like students, because she's like a low rank. Jake is like the second in command kind of character, and there's other white guy that's like his team member. I don't even remember his name, to be honest. Um, but the only other team member that I even got the name of, as far as my notes are concerned, is like Victoria, which is like, oh, you had this small thing, and then they had a little fight, and then that was about it. And then they like jump to this simulation where they're fighting a kaiju, Amara and one of the other the junior pilots, I guess I'll just call them that. And they end up failing, of course. Afterwards, Jake gets joined by that white dude, his buddy, and then we cut to Charlie Day's character. He was the scientist in the first movie. I completely forgot his name. I don't think they ever mentioned him by name, and if they did, I completely missed it. So I just I just called him Charlie Day. That, yeah. Anyway, and then the other scientist that walks with the cane. So they're talking about how they could potentially start using kaiju blood to help them out and stuff like that. Meanwhile, the lady in charge, I completely forgot her name, but she wants to create these drones so that the humans can deploy them from anywhere, and Jake's fine with that. Anyways, but before that can end up happening, he ends up deploying with his little friend, the white guy. So they see these birds moving away, and they see this dark Jaeger, the one in all black, appear, and it's this rogue Jaeger. So I'll just call it the rogue Jaeger. So their main Jaeger, the blue one, so it's the blue one, and since I don't remember any of the Jaeger's names in this, I will just call him the Blue Jaeger. He gets wrecked essentially, and they like the group sends like all these other Jaegers to like help them out and stuff, and then the rogue one escapes. So at this point, Jake, his sister, the Asian girl from the first movie, I kind of remembered her name from the first movie, but when I went to watch this, again, I don't remember the notes from that or anything of that nature, and I don't remember them mentioning her by name, and if they did, I completely missed out on writing it. So I just wrote it was his sister, and then she ends up dying. I felt like that was kind of like pointless. Like they barely interacted with one another, and she was already taken out that fast. It felt very rushed as far as like pacing goes. It just didn't feel right. Anyway, so afterwards, Jake tries to train with Amara. They get they have that bit where they see each other's flashbacks, and she sees her family get crushed by a kaiju on a beach day. It looks a little bit weird, just a little bit weird, I suppose. So Charlie Day's character talks with the boss. I get the lady. I'll just call her the boss. So he returns to his little home. He keeps referring to his wife or whatever, and then it ends up being a kaiju, and that's supposed to set up. Spoiler alert, that he ends up being like this bad guy. He wants to take over the world and stuff of that nature. And yeah, that kind of came out of nowhere. Like, he just has that now. I mean, in the first movie, it felt like they were going in a different direction from that. It felt like I thought they were gonna do. I can't remember the name of the movie where that guy was transforming into the alien. Like more and more and more, and they try to get rid of it. I thought they were going to do something like that, but have him have more control over the kaiju. Like, that was going to be what was going to happen. And, even though that follows a different cliche, I think, like, that type of style would have been a bit more interesting than just having him just sort of become the antagonist sort of seemingly out of nowhere and having this kaiju with him. Again, I don't remember him getting one at the end of the first movie, so maybe I just missed that part. Anyway, so Victoria and Amara like do this little mini battle thing, and it's not really that important. But the Blue Jaeger they get this transmission into this thing that they're trying to find, so they end up in the snow area. And there is where they fight once again the Rogue Jaeger. This time they come up with a better strategy. This fight is definitely more impressive for the Blue Jaeger because this time they are able to become victorious. And that's when they learn that that kaiju was controlling it. The main brain part anyways. So Amara wants to check out the fallen kaiju Jaeger, I guess I'll call it now. So they end up discovering something about it. I don't even remember what they found or what they did with it, to be honest. But that ends up getting her dismissed from the program. Uh, and then from there, she goes to Jake, where he talks about his dad and what he was like. And then they get some help from Shaw Industries, which is, I don't remember from the first, if that was something from the first movie either, but anyway. So Charlie's character was in charge of trying to get the Jaeger's autopilot thing up and running, but that kind of ended up backfiring because of him, essentially. And thus, when Amara is on the ground, things are blowing up around her, stuff is going bad. So he, like, Charlie's character is, like, beats up the other guy, or, like, stops the other scientist. No, they were on this, what was it? The elevator, and he was, like, fighting with the other scientist to, like, help stop him. And once they leave into this room, he finally reveals that the Charlie guy reveals he wants to end the world all of a sudden, about the monsters getting in his head, blah blah blah. So we see that the drones are being fought off by some of the other Jaegers, and the drones are being controlled by the kaiju as well. So the other scientist, the one with the cane, takes down the remaining drones, and then Amara is immediately led back in. So her departure to back in, nothing really changed, so on and so forth. So the Shao Company comes in and does their thing. I think the Shao Company is just the company they work for. That kind of confused me, honestly. I don't know, like, what Shao is in reference to, if that's their group or if it's another group. Anyway, so they discover that the kaijus, sorry, plural, want to attack Mount Fuji because the kaijus react differently with different elements from within the ground. So there's that. And as the big plan comes together through the big montage, they play the music from the first movie. Probably, like, the best part of that movie, to be honest. I'm not gonna lie, I absolutely love that theme for Pacific Rim, the first one. It gets you really motivated. It's pretty good. They only use it for montage here, and I believe they used it like 3 times in the first movie, if I remember correctly. Anyway, Jake claims that he needs the students to step up to attack the various kaijus because they don't have a lot of Jaegers. As you can see, I think they only have the 4 that you see on the screen, and maybe one other one that might not be on the poster there, but anyway. So there's that. So there's 3 kaijus that are attacking, and it's hard, there's, like, different battle sequences happening here. Charlie Day's character is somehow there now. I forgot how he got there. He's, like, controlling these little mini kaijus or something or other. And once he does that, like, they start off doing pretty good, the Jaegers, and then they do the combination thing. And once they think they have some sort of victory, the 3 kaijus become 1 kaiju, mega kaiju, and, like, he starts, like, decimating the different Jaegers, and one of the guys dies. I don't know which one died, honestly. But, you know, he essentially smashes most of the other Jaegers. So the leader gets involved, bringing Amara's Jaeger into the fight with a bomb attached to it. She attaches the bomb to the blue Jaeger. They move. Actually, that ends up kind of being pointless, to be honest, if I remember correctly. But they end up moving to the location because the Jaeger now moved. The big Gigantor Jaeger is moving toward Mount Fuji, and then so they make their way over there. They go toward the sky. I believe that's the only reason they used the big bomb that they had. So they are in the atmosphere and they start dropping down, and they get to as close as possible before the two pilots eject or attempt to eject, and then it's up to the mini Jaeger with the boss in it to help those two out before the blue Jaeger makes big mega impact with the big kaiju. So it crashes into the big kaiju and it's taken out. And from out of absolutely nowhere, I don't even know how this happened, the white guy that I kept mentioning, I don't remember his name, he was like a commander? I forgot what his rank was, but he ends up like finding Charlie's character somehow and just like punches the daylights out of him. So, Jake and Amara are left to celebrate in the snow and blah blah blah. And then the movie does its like cut to almost like end of the movie, and then it cuts to then Charlie making the evil. You know, he's evil, so he makes his threat that the attacks will never stop, which is a setup obviously for a third movie. And then the main character Jake claims that they are going to take the fight to the kaiju. And that was Pacific Rim Uprising. The pacing was a bit slow again here as well. The characters, I believe there was too many of them, like the student characters especially. I think it would have helped if there were probably only 3 at most, but there were like 6 of them. And even at that, I think there's too many characters to focus on in this action movie. Clearly, they didn't know how to pace out between the different characters. Therefore, the student characters end up getting, like, completely sidelined. And even Amara just completely gets, like, this like one bit that gets dropped and then brought back in for the end of the movie. Like, it feels like they definitely didn't know how to focus in on their characters as well here because there was too many of them. You know, the whole bit with the kaiju mixing in with Jaegers, I actually do like the idea. I don't mind that. That was pretty cool. Made for an interesting Jaeger combination with kaiju, like the blue sort of effect that it had. I thought that was actually pretty cool. That fight was probably the best fight, the second one, between the blue Jaeger and the rogue Jaeger, because it was an actual fight, you know, and it just didn't end with a big mega impact or whatever. So yeah, you know, so, you know, I think Pacific Rim has it's really tough, because, like, I wanted this movie to succeed. I really did. And I thought it would have a better chance, but I don't see that happening that well. But, you know, they, you know, apparently want to do a third movie now, so I honestly have even lower standards now with this movie coming out, to be honest. I will say you can at least, at minimum, at least you can see the action. I'll say that much. So, I'll give it a 4 out of 10. I wouldn't give any Transformers movie that high of a rank, to be honest. So I would say it's better than all the Transformers movies, but it's not as good as the first Pacific Rim. I believe it was Matt from the Two Best Friends that said that, and I totally agree, but it's not even that high on the scoring board for me. I mean, the rest of the Transformers movies would be even lower than a 4 out of 10, to be honest, but maybe the exception of the first one, I don't know if that probably would tie with Pacific Rim Uprising. I'd probably give it that much, just because it's the first movie and all that junk or whatever. Anyway, that's my take on specific random Uprising. And if you enjoyed this long review slash rant, then please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe, and also make sure to check out that link in the description. It'll head you over to my Patreon page, and any donations are greatly appreciated. Now until next time everyone, bye!